Hello and welcome to Radiance Revealed, the podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jen Haley. I'm a board-certified dermatologist, fitness enthusiast, nutrition expert, and global explorer that over the years has uncovered that your skin is a true representation of your internal health. Each week, we will chat with leading health, wellness, and even spiritual experts who will reveal secrets to true health and vitality. My goal is to help you change small habits to give you the power to create a more balanced, aligned, and elevated version of yourself. Now let's dive in. So Abby, as we dive in here to share all of the wonderful information that you share online through your platforms and your books, I'm a little curious what inspired you to start teaching women how to communicate better with men. And was there any specific defining moment in your life that led you to this work?
Yeah, for sure. Interestingly, men encourage me to do this. Lots of guy friends and also girlfriends will often come to me for dating advice. So the more I talk to them about this, the more I feel like, okay, what I have here is quite valuable in terms of how to help people communicate better because men and women speak a completely different language. And funny thing that my ex-boyfriend actually told me that I help him a lot when it comes to understanding relationship and women. So he encouraged me to talk about this online. He said, "Dear, I think you should talk about dating because that's going to help a lot of people." So yeah, man told me to do this basically.
Really? Okay. It's interesting because a lot of people are going to be asking, why is a dermatologist having someone like you on the podcast? And I see many people for all sorts of conditions, whether it's skin cancer or acne, or they want to look younger. And I ask myself the why at the end of the day. Like, why do we want to do things? And if you keep tracking back to why people want to do things, it's so that ultimately we can connect with each other and we can connect on a deeper level and we can have more authentic and valuable conversations and connections.
For sure.
And in keeping line with that, the reason I reached out to you, why I like your work so much, is because
You-
it's so organic in that you teach women to be radiant with themselves and confident with themselves and show up authentically and confidently so that they can get treated the way they want, and the way they deserve. So share some of those nuances.
Yeah, for sure. So personally, I work in psychology. So in my line of work, I have lots of opportunities to work with men who are with power. So like law firm partners, like surgeons, bankers, entrepreneurs. And a lot of them would share with me like their deepest, darkest secret that they don't even tell their family members or like their business partner for over 10 years. So I learn a lot from them when it comes to like how men think and how they operate. And I realized that there's a huge gap between what women think men want and what men actually want. And I feel like a lot of girls these days, because of different reasons, like, industrialization, working, better education, the invention of the pills, we became a bit more masculine because we work a lot. And a lot of us just like lost the touch with our femininity. And that's why girls get so burnt out and they're so resentful of their partner because they're always leading. So I think a huge gap on the market right now in 2025 is that there's a huge imbalance between, I guess, the masculine energy and the feminine energy. And I feel like I am in a good spot to just share my insight on that. So to help women become more feminine and also to help those men who were a bit more for lack of better phrase, emasculated to actually step into their masculine. So, to bring the homeostasis or equilibrium back to where it was before.
So do you feel from talking to all these men and having all these insights, like what are some of these things, these deep, dark, secret themes, obviously without giving away anybody's personal information, like what are some of the themes that you're seeing? Like they want to step up and are they not given the opportunity to step up? Or is
Yeah.
something else going on?
For sure. I can think of an example. So, this is from a friend of mine, a guy friend who's very gentleman. And there was once that who was in a mall and he was holding a door open for a girl, and he got told off. the girl said something in the line of, "Oh, you think I can't do this on my own?" And he just got so put up. So I feel like nowadays a lot of guys who are genuine and they're nice, but they're so afraid of rejection because sometimes women can come across slightly aggressive in certain situations. So that kind of put them off from reaching out or like chasing. And I think men need to be encouraged and women sometimes need to tone it down a little bit. And as in like deep dark secret, I'll keep it like on like a surface level today. One thing that I can say is men don't respond well to words. They respond to silence or inaction. So let's say if a guy is not treating you right, there's no need to send him a big paragraph because this is his actual reaction when he see a paragraph from like a girl. He'd be like, "Oh my God, not again. Like just I can't deal with this." And he's gonna put you to the side. So when you get mistreated by a man, the best thing you can do as a woman is either just don't respond to it, because trust me, he knows how to treat a woman. Like it's just wired in his DNA. He know how to treat a woman right. So if he's not treating you right, it's either because he doesn't care about you enough or he doesn't want to. So there's no need to call him 10 times or yell at him or send him a big paragraph. Just disengage. That's the most feminine way to deal with it, I would say.
Yeah, I think yeah, gosh, it's so interesting. I get in these conversations with my girlfriends all the time because as an accomplished woman, as accomplished women, we are in that mode of doing and being assertive, and yet there's this beauty of like the feminine and masculine dance that we do, and we have to learn to like kind of put it aside in that relationship. And I think those are so powerful words because if what I caught on to, what I held on to with what you were saying was if he doesn't step up or if he doesn't respond, it's because he doesn't want to. And we often don't want to admit that, right? So we might be chasing and chasing and chasing. So, like, what are some of these big communication struggles that you often see women facing in these relationships? I know on your Instagram you have, like beginner, intermediate, advanced man language. Can you jump
Yeah.
into that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. Funny that you mentioned about women who are very accomplished. Like I work with lots of lawyers and entrepreneurs, and when you are at work, like obviously as a woman, you have to be masculine when you're chasing a deal, getting something done. Like you have to be masculine, but it is a skill that you can practice to switch between your masculine energy and feminine energy. So you could be super, super ambitious at work, but when you get involved with a guy that you're interested in, you can learn how to take a step back and let him lead and take the lead. So, a couple of things that I can share, I feel like would be quite helpful for most women, especially if you're very accomplished. When it comes to talking to men, masculine men respond very well to a feminine woman's feelings. So there are certain words that you want to emphasize. For example, instead of okay, let me put it this way. A lot of women, when they raise their concern, they demand a lot from men. But men don't like to feel like they were expected to do something and they don't want to feel like they get told to do something, especially when they're masculine. So a better way is you can express your desires, your feelings. To give an example, for example, if you are you've been going out with a man for a little while, and then he used to plan things, but then he got a bit lazy. He got too comfortable, and he stopped planning dates. So most women who are go-getters would complain, jump into like the complaint mode and say, "Oh, you don't do that for me anymore. You never take me out anymore." There's a better way to rephrase that. So, for example, you can say, "Well, a couple of weeks ago when you took me out to that restaurant and then we went to mini golf afterwards, that was so fun. I would love it if we can do that more." Like you're essentially saying the same thing, but you spin that in a very positive tone. And that's how you invite a guy to step up. And if he truly cares about you, he would plan the next day very, just very straightforward. He'd get the message and he would do it for you. And the other thing I can think of is when it comes to the words that you use, um, if you tell a man that, oh, I hmm, let me think about this.
Let's take a step back. I just want to piggyback on what you just said. So just say you say, "Oh, I love when, we went to the movies and then you took me to that really nice restaurant and we played mini golf. That was so fun." And he still doesn't plan. Where do you go from there? Do you just go start planning your own life separate from his?
That's a very good question. I mean, after a few nudges, if he's not taking a step forward to meet you where you are at, then as a smart woman, you have to cut your losses. You have to know when to, take a step back and disengage. And as I always say, unless you've got a ring on your finger, you should always keep your options open. And that's also how basic human biology works when it comes to um, how an egg get fertilized. It's like a bunch of sperms going at an egg, and the egg just sit there and wait to be fertilized. And I think women should also approach dating the same, unless you've been claimed or unless a guy is explicitly asking for your commitment. You should always keep your options open, and that's a really powerful way to protect your heart and protect your mental health. And just to add a point here as well, I highly recommend doing rotational dating. If you don't know what rotational dating is, it means that you are getting to know a few guys at the same time. I often use this analogy like in the Olympic Games. You have three medalists. So you have a gold, a silver, and a bronze. And that's how you should approach your dating life. But just to clarify, when I say getting to know a few guys at the same time, I don't mean sleeping with all of them. Although if that's what you do, I don't judge. It's your decision. But I just mean going out on date and getting to know different people. The reason why it's so important to keep your options open is because man can really sense your energy. If you're all over one person, he can sense that your energy is very dense. And then it's like a natural repellent. Like he just get a bit put off. But if he can sense that your energy is light and fun and airy, it inspires him to chase you more and try to lock you down because he knows that there are other competition out there. And also, a lot of girls these days are dealing with narcissists or like guys that are just not so nice. When you're rotational dating, you have a few guys in your roster, it's going to help you differentiate because when you see, okay, this guy is showing me some red flags. But if you're only dating one guy, then sometimes women like to give people the benefit of the doubt. So then we'd be like, okay, maybe I'm thinking too much. Maybe he's fine. But if you see a red flag in one person, and then when you look at the other guys that you're talking to, and they're not showing the same thing, then you realize, okay, he's got some issues. It's not me. And I should really focus on, other people in my roster and maybe get rid of this guy who's showing me bad signs. So that's really going to help protect your heart and also your mental sanity.
Right? Yeah, there's so many important, like, interesting things that you said. So I'm single. I'm currently single and I practice like catching arrows is what I call it. So,
Mm,
for instance, I feel that men notice energy that is welcoming to masculinity. Like I get doors held open all the time without expecting it. It's just the way I approach the door. I don't know what it is, but doors get held open. Even the other day, I was walking into a coffee shop and a man saw me walking and he pushed aside a stool so I can continue to walk to the counter to get there, and I didn't ask for that. It's something that
so
he
nice.
wanted to do, and it was so lovely, and I acknowledge it because I feel the more of that we do, even if we are in a relationship, even if we are married, it's still the way men want to treat women, and women should wanna receive it because it's consideration. And going back to your point, what did you call it? Circular dating or multiple dating or
Rotational dating.
rotational dating? Okay. So I think that there are a lot of nice guys, and I wanna get your opinion on this. There's a lot of nice guys that are afraid to be bold, overly bold because they've been knocked down by inconsistent responses from women. So the men that tend to be the most bold and the most aggressive are often narcissists and the love bombers and all of that. So how does somebody navigate that where we have someone hunting us or
Chasing, hunting. Yeah.
chasing, hunting, and enjoying that without getting overwhelmed with, um, the toxic energy before it's too late.
Yeah, great question. I actually get asked this question a lot because sometimes it's really hard to tell if you're being love bombed or is he actually showing you genuine interest. I have to say one thing though, the feminine energy and the intuition is so, so powerful that's beyond your imagination. Oftentimes, when your gut is telling you that it seems a bit too good to be true, it certainly is. So if you are wondering, okay, am I getting love bomb? He seemed a bit like too eager, or like he's just a bit too much. This is going too quickly. You're probably right about him. So I always encourage girls to trust their own feelings. I can't really explain why, but without getting too woo-woo or esoterical, like our gut feeling is the best protection. If you feel like something is too good to be true, it certainly is. And the other thing is, just based on my observation, working with clients and my personal experience, guys that are truly wealthy and they have a lot to offer, they are very guarded because they don't want people to get in touch with them for what they have.
Hmm.
So if a guy is of high value and is healthy, he would show his appreciation and he would, let's say, buy you gifts or take you out and provide for you gradually. So people that show you their wealth or show you what they have very early on, that is a giant red flag because pe people who truly have money, they are the exact opposite because they are scared that people might just, like them for their money. Like as a woman, right? You don't want a guy to just like you for your beauty and your appearance. You want the guy to like you for who you are. Same as guy, they don't want women to just like them for the cash. They want to be loved for who they are. That's just the basic human psychology. So, but just to answer your question, if you've ever feel like it's a little bit too good to be true, it probably is, and trust yourself.
Right? Yeah, it's an interesting struggle between the ego and our intuition because our ego always likes when people like us. Like that's the number one quality of liking someone is because they like you
Yeah.
versus this doesn't really feel right. It feels unnatural. So I think friends are very helpful with that as well.
With friends, can I share my personal perspective on that about
Would love
talking to
that.
girlfriend? Perfect. I personally don't like to discuss relationship issues or dating issues with girlfriends just because I feel like oftentimes when girls get together, they are blind leading the blind. Because most women don't know what men think, and that's totally fine because we are not guys, right? We don't have the same level of testosterone. We don't have the same, the brain functioning. So when girls get together, they often like build each others up. And oftentimes, even when you did something that's quite unreasonable, your girlfriend will support you and say, "Oh, you're right. Like he's just in the wrong." So I don't feel like that's very appropriate. I often advise if you have a question or issue with your relationship or with the guy that you're dating, go talk to a male figure that you can trust. Potentially like maybe your father, maybe a cousin, or like a relative or your brother. Because men can often give you the best advice on, what the other guy is thinking. I think it's a lot more effective and helpful than going to your board of director in your group chat and asking a bunch of questions. Yeah, that's just
Right?
my
Yeah, no,
view on
that's so
that.
true because people project their own opinions and their own experiences onto your experience. And yeah, going back to men and versus women, like in speaking the male language and all things that you're an expert in, what are some of the biggest misconceptions that women have around how men communicate and how they think?
Yeah, just to follow up on my point about men don't respond to words, they respond to silence and inaction. On the other hand, masculine men show their love through action. So, a very good way to tell if a man is truly interested in you is, I guess there are three things. Number one, do not confuse attention with intention. So a man watching and liking your stories all the time, texting you all day long, but without asking you out, that's him giving you attention. That doesn't mean that he has the intention to date you. So there are three things that you can sort of like tell as a accurate indicator if a man is truly interested in dating you. So number one, he asks you out on dates that he planned and he paid for consistently. Number two, when you need help, he's physically there to help you out. Let's say if your car broke down, he's going to be there and help you take the car to the garage or look at it. And number three, he asked you for a commitment. He told you that he doesn't want to see anyone else and he want to be exclusive with you. And these are the only three reliable indicators to show that a man is interested in dating you and that he has long-term intention for you. And apart from that, nothing else. And I think a lot of women get confused because if a guy texts them a lot, if a guy share a lot of personal things with them, and they feel like, oh, he must be interested in dating me. But that's not how masculine men show their love. Men show love by action. I'll also give an example. A while ago, a client asked me this, like a one-on-one client. She was dating this guy for a little while, and that's one time that she went to like a job interview, and it was quite a bit like out of town, and her car just broke down, so she needed like a lift. So she asked this guy if he can drive her to the location, and he just like he rejected her because he was busy or like with whatever excuse. But then he said, "Well, you know what? After your audition or after your job interview, well, we can go do something to celebrate." So my advice for her is if a guy is saying things to make you feel better instead of actually being there at your service, it's just not that into you. So yeah, guys show love through actions. And the other thing that all women always get wrong is when we like a guy, it's in our nature because women are born to be collaborative and nurturing and caring. We often go out of our way to do things for him because we think that the more we give, the more he is going to like us. But that's actually the exact opposite. To make a man like you and to make a man feel that he's emotionally invested in you, you have to invite him and you have to allow him space to do things for you. So the more he does for you, the more he feel like, okay, wait. Why am I doing so many things for her? I must really care about this girl. And that's how they start to process. Because when it comes to emotions, men are a bit slower when it compared to women. They need longer time to process their thoughts, and you cannot rush them because it has to make sense in their brain based on their own logic and their own step. So the best way to get a guy to like you is don't do too much for him, especially when it's early on, but ask for help and take a step back and allow him to do things for you. I want to say one more thing. I do a Q&A on my Instagram every Monday, so to answer my girls' questions. So I got asked this today. A girl was asking, with a high value man, when I get sick or when I fall ill, would he step up and show his emotions and come help me out? So my reply was, doesn't matter how busy he is, even if his work is crazy, he will find time to come bring you medication or soup. Maybe he can't stay because he's very busy, but he will drop by to come see you because that's how a guy shows his love through action. And a lot of girls in that situation, they might feel like, oh, if he's so busy at work, I just don't want to bother him. I'm going to be fine. Even if he asks, do you need anything? They'd be like, oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. But a feminine woman would allow a guy to step up and say, you know what, I actually need this and that. Could you bring it over to me? And when you do that, it's not an inconvenience for him. On the other hand, you make him feel needed and you make him feel better, and he'll become more emotionally invested in you afterwards. And I promise you that. So,
Right? So, what I'm hearing is watch the movie, don't listen to the words.
great point. My advice is when you're dating, always play deaf. You can't hear anything, you only see the actions. Um, I want to bring up one more point as well, Jen.
Right.
There's a phenomenon that I teach my girl that I actually talk about this in my first book, How to Talk to Men. Men, don't get me wrong, I love men. I adore them because they are very helpful and they're very protective, but they love lip servicing. Lip servicing is a phrase that I kind of made up. It means giving out promises without the slightest intention to fulfill those promises. they often just forget, or they said something, but they never intend to follow up with it. I'm not a man, so I don't know why men do that. But a lot of times girls would say, oh, but he said this. Oh, he said that. Doesn't matter what he said. Play deaf. Pretend that you can't hear anything and only observe his actions. And that's the only reliable indicator to tell a guy's intention when it comes to dating.
Yeah, it's really that's it's so key. And if you think about like the guys you don't like, they're willing to do anything and swim through shark infested water to bring you lemonade, you know? So we have to expect that from the guys that we do like because I think that women want to hold on to the one little thing and excuse the 99% of things that aren't working out if they're really not interested. Have you noticed generational trends between women in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and older?
Um,
And men as well,
General,
obviously.
yeah, I did observe a pattern when it comes to men, so I want to explain a bit about that as well. Um, there's like a saying, good time creates weak men, and weak men create tough time, and tough time create again strong men. So it's always like a circle, right? Life is a circle. So I kind of feel like I am a millennial. I feel like guys in my generation are a little bit softer compared to our parents' generation, because our parents or our grandparents, they've been through war, they've been through like, the tough times. So they're a bit more, um, I guess, yeah, for lack of a better phrase, they're just a bit more tough and they are a bit more ambitious. But in my generation, both men and women are often quite spoiled because our family, um, take very good care of us, put us to good school. And I'm seeing like a comeback in Gen Z these days. Like Gen Z people are just a bit more direct and straightforward. And I've seen a lot of guys in my own circle who are in their early 20s. So they are Gen Z. They are a lot more ambitious and proactive when it comes to businesses, building wealth, or like even chasing women. So millennials, uh, are an interesting generation. This is where I see the biggest gap when it comes to like guys being emasculated and women being just too strong. We can do it all. I have to say though, um, I think women in a lot of sense are as good as men. Like we can do it all. But if you're being honest with yourself, you don't want to have to do it all.
Mm-mm.
And oftentimes when you have too much responsibilities on your shoulders, it ages you. I'm sure you know about that. It makes your skin, look worse. It ages you, and it makes you feel tough and resentful. And that's the exact opposite of being like a radiant or feminine woman. And when it comes to skin as well, like it comes from the inside. If you feel happy and you feel relaxed in your heart, it's gonna show on your appearance and on your skin as well. So yeah, did that answer your question?
It did, it did, and I think it translates to everyone in a community. I used to think I had a limiting belief that made me think that I didn't need anyone, I can do everything myself, and I didn't wanna impose on anyone or, make anyone feel like they had to do anything for me, and actually, a very good girlfriend taught me that that's so selfish because we all wanna connect and help each other. We all want to do things for each other. So by not allowing men to do things for you, it's actually an unkind action because that's how we form a community, by allowing each other to do things for each other.
That's a really great point. Just to follow up on that as well, if you, let's say, if a woman is so burnt out and overworked and doing everything for herself, you when you don't take very good care of yourself, you can't show up 100% to people that you care about. So it all comes from you because you can't pour from an empty cup, right? As cliche as it is. So when you're truly happy in your relationship and with your life, then you have more to give when it comes to money, when it comes to your energy and your time. So not prioritizing your own pleasure and your own needs is actually very selfish. So I totally agree with that.
Right? Okay, so I want to circle back around to, if someone's in a new relationship, like what's a way for a woman to set healthy boundaries without pushing a man away? Because, if you're just receiving, 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 I would think a high value man will eventually say, like, she's just selfish. So, what's the dance? What's the dance that works? What's the magic recipe here, Abby?
Great question. First of all, I want to explain a bit about what men think. So, men understand that their women is the best reflection of them, and men know that the only way to tell if a guy is truly rich and resourceful is not by looking at him, but by looking at his wife, right?
Mhm.
So, I don't think a lot of women understand this. So, just to answer your question, if a woman is very good at receiving and she always, just let the man take the lead and she never really do anything for him, if he's in his true masculine, he's going to be fine with it because you and your presence, your radiance is going to make him look good. For example, I give you two examples. Um, Guys that I've dated in the past, let's say when they take me out to a really nice restaurant and I dress up, I look presentable. And when they pay for the dinner, I would say, well, thank you. That was really lovely. And they would say, no, thank you. Because being with you makes me look good.
Mm.
And that's all they need. And a lot of times girls would ask me, Valentine's Day is coming in 2 weeks, right? So girls will ask, oh, Abby, it's Valentine's Day or it's his birthday. What do I get him? What gifts should I get him? I always joke about this, but I'm also not joking. He doesn't need any gift. You are his gift. And I think a lot of women need to realize that them being happy, them taking good care of themselves, it is the best gift to a man because a masculine man, he doesn't need anything from you. All he needs is your presence. And guys like that often work in a very high stress environment. They're chasing a deal, they're fixing businesses. When they come home, they want good company. They want someone who's soft and fun to hang around with. And your companionship and your beauty, it's the best he can ask for. So I think, yeah, this is a very good question because a lot of girls feel like, well, if I keep taking, then what does he get in return? He gets you in return, girlfriend. And
It's
that's more
true.
than enough.
And don't undervalue yourself because there's a lot there. I think I see it all around. Men really enjoy the company of women and being around the feminine energy. It brings peace in a lot of ways.
Definitely.
Okay, so how should a woman's communications style, either verbally or through actions, how should it change or shift when she moves from a dating relationship into a committed relationship?
Great question. During early stage of dating, I always use this analogy. I think dating and I think life in general, it's like it's a poker game. So when you are getting to know someone, you don't want to show all your cards like playing poker, right? Because men, especially high value men, they like a sense of mystery. They like to chase a little bit. Whether you like it or not, it's in their nature. Back in caveman era, men like to chase, like to hunt. And technology has advanced a lot, but the human brain remains the same pretty much. So don't overshare during early stage of dating. Always leave something, keep your card close to your heart because if you pour your heart out and if a guy knows exactly what you're up to every single day, there's nothing else that he could explore. There's no novelty. And when it comes to communication, I highly recommend during early stage of dating, do not text too much. Texting during early stage should be mainly focusing on the logistics of the next meetup. I know that a lot of girls like to text a lot, and when they get a text from a guy that they like, they're so happy. You get like a dopamine hit. But I'll tell you this, like a guy who's got a lot going on, who's got a lot of good things or like a career to chase, he hasn't got time to text you all day long. So keep texting to very minimal in the first couple weeks of dating, and you can share a bit more and you can talk more when you actually meet up in person. And also, if you share too much on the phone, there's no motivation to invite him to actually ask you out on a date. So yeah, early stage of dating, do not overshare. Always keep your card close to your heart. But once you get into a committed relationship with someone, that will have to change because communication and transparency is very important. So when something comes up or when you're feeling a bit upset about something that he's done, if he's your boyfriend, you have to communicate in a way that that's very direct, but also not threatening. So there's a very key word that women can use. You can tell him how you feel. So for example, let's say if you went to a party with your boyfriend and you have to leave the party before him and he stayed. I'm just making this up. But then he was having such a good time that he forgot to walk you home or like walk you downstairs because he was having a good time at the party. Instead of complaining and say, "Oh, you didn't walk me downstairs or you didn't say goodbye properly," you can say this. Well, I feel a little bit sad that you didn't walk me downstairs yesterday at the party. When you tell him how you feel, especially when you say, "Oh, I feel a bit sad, I'm a bit upset, I feel a bit uncomfortable." If he truly cares about you, he reacts straight away on autopilot. And next time, he will definitely to make sure not to forget about you. Or if your boyfriend sometimes forget to open the car door for you, or he forgot to hold your hand when you're walking on the street, instead of complaining and say, "Oh, you never hold my hand anymore," or "You don't open my door," the next time when he pick up your hand, say this, "Oh, I really like it when you hold my hand. It's so cute." Or like when he open a car doors for you, you can tell him that, "Well, it really turns me on when you open the car doors for me. That's hot." I promise you, when you phrase it like that, it's so encouraging and he would never forget to do that ever again. So communicate your feelings, but don't demand certain treatment because that come across as very entitled. And men, especially masculine men, do not respond well to threat or entitlement. You can tell him how you feel, but don't tell him what to do.
Yeah, I get that. Definitely get that. So is there mm, what's one question you think that women should ask men and they don't?
Ask a guy, are you familiar with the five love languages?
Yes. I think we
Yeah.
want all of them.
Women, yeah, most women respond very well to all of them. We want physical touch, we want gifts, we want to spend time together, we want to get compliments. I think quite a nice way is to ask a guy what makes him feel loved. And I promise you, based on my personal experience, most guys do not respond well to gifts. Like they're happy to get a gift, but it doesn't ignite the same emotional response compared to women. Like, "Oh my God, I'm so happy." Guys don't really care about gifts, and if he needs something, he would have bought it already. So most guys respond very well to physical touch and also verbal affirmation. So when he's done something nice to you, say thank you and show your appreciation on the spot. Don't delay your appreciation because sometimes you forget about it. And when a guy don't feel appreciated, it's going to make him less likely to perform the same action. Just like basic human psychology or like, I often say this, not in like a degrading way, but like, it's like training a puppy and men agree with me. Like when you train a puppy, when he's done a nice trick, you feed him immediately. You don't wait till tomorrow to give him the treat, right? So when a guy has done something nice to you, express your appreciation immediately. It always works very well for men. So yeah, ask them what makes you feel loved or what makes you feel appreciated. And I promise you, it's oftentimes not gifts, and it's not about you doing things for him.
Mm. Okay, I want to circle back around to the texting because I feel like texting is a huge problem in our society where there's different expectations, then there's the voice texting, then there's just so many variations on people's different expectations and standards with texting, and so much miscommunication with texting because we all have different texting styles. So you mentioned that you think that texting should be kept to a minimum between dates. It's just a logistical thing. Is this something you just do as a woman, or should you express this to someone like, I'm really not a texter. I will text, when we're making plans. I don't consider text a form of communication, or you just do it because I do think some men might, well, you know better than I do, but I'm curious if some men will be will think you're not interested if you're not texting them. But then there's always the people, they just want to have a whole texting conversation, forever. So can you dive into that a little bit more?
Absolutely. Well, so Jen, going back to my first ever point on the podcast, men do not respond to words. So there's no need to tell him that, oh, I'm just not a big texter. When you reply very sporadically or you don't reply so often, he gets it. He get that you're not a big texter. And men are genetically wired to chase. It's in their DNA. So if he feels like, okay, she's not too much of a texter, let me try asking her out. And if you say yes to hanging out again, he knows that you're interested. And if that ever comes up in a conversation, he was like, oh, like, why don't you text so much? Or like, if he said, I would like to text me a little bit more, then you can just tell him that, well, yeah, I'm often busy and I'm trying to not stay on my phone too much. I hope that's okay with you. And a guy who is truly interested in pursuing you, he will respect that you need space. And I feel like oftentimes this is a huge issue because girls entertain a guy a lot. Like they pen pal a lot. Like you could text a guy for weeks without him asking you out, and you just end up wasting hours of your precious life on something never that was never gonna go anywhere in the first place. So I think it might come across a bit like just too black and white, but not texting too much is going to really save you time and save you a lot of heartache and like headache. And yeah, guys get that. And I think guys who truly respect you, he would respect the fact that you don't like to text too much, at least in the I guess the first couple of weeks of dating. And if he really want to get in touch with you, he would call. No, he's got fingers too. So
Right.
yeah, don't worry too much about that.
And if he doesn't, he probably wasn't going to in the first place ask you out.
Exactly.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on hypergamy? Women, you know what that means. Can
Yeah.
you explain what it is? And then just for the listeners, and then what are your thoughts on that? Because I think I have 2 sons, and I think it's challenging because women are so accomplished nowadays, and the pool is getting a little bit more dilute. Or not dilute,
Yeah.
but smaller.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great question to ask. Well, hypogamy, and I guess in simple terms, it just means that women always want to date up. So they want a partner who is stronger, smarter, and have higher earning potential. I wish I have um better things to say or more positive or encouraging things to say. But the truth is that, because I always tell the truth, whether people like it or not, like as a woman, as you get prettier, as you have more education, more degrees, as you make more money, your dating pool is really going to shrink because naturally you just want someone that is better than you. As you get better, the pool of men that you can actually, date or like get involved with would get actually smaller. So, I think in today's day and age, it is difficult being a high achieving woman. While I'm not telling you to dim your light or like play dumb or dumb yourself down, um, it is difficult. So I think women can work on, although maybe you have a lot of education or you have a very high earning potential, but also really learn to explore your feminine side. So when you're with a guy that you're involved in, avoid talking about work, avoid giving him advice, even though you might be expert in a certain area in his work. Maybe you're an accountant and his company's got some tax issue. Don't advise him. Try to for lack of better phrase, try to, zip it up. Don't share too much, especially not to advise men on certain things that comes to like businesses or work. I'm sure a lot of times you can do a better job than him potentially, but in a romantic situation, it's essential to know when to take a step back and not to overshare. And I think, yeah, that's my view on that. And your earning potential as a woman could be completely independent of your energy. So you can make a lot of money, but you can keep all your money, invest it, donate it, do something else. And when it comes to a man, even if you make more money than him, It doesn't mean that you have to go 50-50, or it doesn't mean that he can't pick up the bill. Yeah, men are often happy to do that as long as you are feminine. And I think it's really important to be careful when it comes to dealing with guys. You don't want to put yourself in a peer category, because if you are being too vocal about certain things when it comes to businesses or technical stuff, it's very easy for a guy to put you in a peer category. What that means is that he sees you as a peer, and then his predatory and competitive side come out, and it's not fun. You want the protective and providing side of him. And how to get that, you have to just, yeah, learn when to zip it up and not overshare, and let him talk about things that, he's passionate about when it comes to work, especially. It is difficult as a high achieving woman to date because your dating pool do shrink. And I think the best way moving forward is learning how to also unleash and dive into your feminine energy. So at work, super masculine. With the guy that you like, very feminine.
Yeah, I think that's such great advice. Okay, before we wrap it up here, I just want to get your take on online dating. What's your thought with all the apps and the scrolling and yeah.
Yeah, I personally love using dating apps, and I think it's a great tool, but only if you know how to use it. And in 2025, not using dating apps to make your life easier to meet guys is like not asking ChatGPT when you have a question. Like, it's just not efficient, and eventually you're gonna get left behind. Um, One of the objections that I get a lot from women is that, oh, there are so many trashy men online. I would say this though, when you walk into a restaurant or a bar in real life, to be honest, maybe only 10 to 15% of the guys are dateable there. But then because in a restaurant, there might only be 50 guys. So it just seemed like there aren't a lot of like quote unquote trashy men there. But on a dating app, you've got the exposure to a huge pool of guys. You can, I don't know, see a thousand guys' profiles in an hour. So like the number just add up. And I promise you, the percentage of guys that are dateable online are exactly the same in real life. And guys who you match online because they don't know you and you are not someone that's in his real life, he has no moral obligation to be nice to you. So people show their true color very, very quickly online. And I think it's a great way to actually filter out some of the guys that you just don't want to get involved in. Because if you met someone in real life, you might have mutual friends, you might have, I don't know, work friends, and it kind of keep him on his toes because he don't want to screw up his own image. And oftentimes it won't be until like a few months or a few years down the line, then you see his true color. But if a guy is kind and respectful to you online when no one's holding him accountable, you can be sure that he is a good person at heart. And there are so many high value men online. All you have to do is, I've got a whole book about it. What you have to do is knowing how to curate your profile when it comes to your pictures and your prompts so you can get their attention. And also, once you've matched them, you have to have very strict boundaries when it comes to texting and also like your responses to make sure that they give you, I guess, like a nice date offer. And if they don't, you have to know how to, step back and move on to like other guys. So yeah, it can be done. And final point I want to mention here is I have a lot of readers from Germany, quote unquote 50-50 country. 50-50 doesn't exist. All men are wired to provide. Only for their dream girls, though. I have a student, her name is Jennifer, and she read my books and came to my master classes last year. And she texted me this a couple weeks ago. Hey, Abby, this is your student, Jennifer from Germany. I went on to 57 dates last year and I spent nothing, not a single dime. So if a girl in Germany can meet guys that are not 50-50 using dating apps, we can do the same for sure. We're not special and we just
Although
know what to do.
for the men listening, women do spend a lot because we are doing our facial stuff, we're getting to our makeup, we're doing our hair, we're doing our nails. So there's indirect cost in presenting ourselves to you. So it's not like we're not invested at all when we show up. So let me ask you, so I have a girlfriend, I hope she's not listening to this. And we had a conversation yesterday, and she went on a date, and she goes, I paid 50-50." I said, "Why?" She goes, "'Cause I don't like him, I'm not gonna go out with him again." And I said, "Yeah, but he still asked you on the date. Like, w what are your thoughts?"
Great question. I actually made a video about this last year. Funny that you asked that. Okay. Girls often feel like if I don't like the guy, I'm not gonna see him again, then I should pay because we feel guilty, right? That's just how women think. But I want to challenge you this though. If you don't like someone and you're never gonna see him again, you've already wasted your time. Why would you waste your money as well? Doesn't make sense to me. Like, where's the logic? That's just how I view it. And also, yeah, if he asks you out, I think it's basic social etiquette for whoever, like if he invited you out, then he should be responsible for the expense. Although I do feel like, men should always pay because if you can't even afford dinner for two, how could you afford a family, right?
Mhm. Exactly. Exactly. Okay, I wanna go back to the apps because this might be an ignorant question, but, like, okay, so there's different apps. Are there some that are more inclined to be for, um, long-term monogamous relationships and others that are more hookup apps? And do you have any information and chiming in on that for people listening? Because I was opposed to apps, and somebody said something to I just said, "Oh, if God wants me to meet someone, I'm just gonna crash carts into them in the grocery store." And my friend said, "That's a great recipe for celibacy." And I thought, yeah, if I want to get a job, at least I put a profile on LinkedIn so people know how to contact me. The companies aren't coming to my door without knowing I'm even a bit available. But, like, where do you recommend people go on multiple apps, focus on one? Like, what's the strategy? Do a video call before you meet in person, just meet them? Like, what kind of dates? That sort of thing. Like, what's and I know you dive into this in your coaching and your books, which we'll get into, but just like a short little summary of how someone should get started.
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to dating apps, I don't believe in the saying that, oh, some apps are a bit more casual, some are a bit more relationship focused, or some are just for hookups. I have lived in multiple countries myself, Canada, America, UK, Hong Kong. Now I'm in Buenos Aires in Argentina. I will tell you this based on my personal experience. Based on the location, certain apps are going to be more popular. So when it comes to dating, you want to have the biggest pool of candidate or applicant, right? So based on your geographical location, find the dating apps that's the most popular in your country. So for example, in the UK, Hinge is really big. In US, in certain states, Match.com or like Tinder is quite big. In Asia, there's like an app called Coffee Meets Bagel. So it really depends on your location. My take on this is as long as you curate your profile in a way to show that you are a high value woman and you show that you're elegant, guys that are dusty or they're looking for a quick one, they know they won't contact you. They won't match you. Or even if they do, they will be respectful because they know that you are a woman that's got self worth and you're formidable. And in the past, I have very strong opinion about Bumble because back in the days, Bumble is an app that women have to make the first move. And in my opinion, a masculine man, a go-getter, would not be okay with the idea that once they match with a girl, they have to sit back and wait for her to approach. But as far as I'm aware, a couple months ago, Q4 2024, they actually changed the strategy. I'm not on app, so I'm not too sure. But I believe that now men can also message first on Bumble. So I'm okay with the app now. So yeah, when it comes to dating apps, I think it really depends on your geographical location. And in my book, The Insanely Thorough Guide to Beating the Online Dating Algorithm, I did mention that there's a way to play along with the algorithm to make your profile stand out. For girls who are looking to get back into the dating apps, I would recommend signing up onto maybe 1 to 2 apps and then explore those profile. And you should only spend about 6 to 8 weeks on those apps because the algorithm tend to push out new profiles. So after 6 to 8 weeks, if you follow my methodology, you should have no issue having a few high betterments number in your phone, in your roster, so that you can get off the app. And if by then you haven't got too many contacts, you can sign up for other apps. So then, you're a new user. And in the future, if you do go back to the same app, let's say after a few months, make sure to use a new phone number, new pictures, and new email. So the algorithm doesn't recognize you. So it's going to feel like, oh, you're a new user. So your profile get pushed out to a lot more, like bigger audience. So yeah, when it comes to dating apps, it's about the algorithm and you have to know how to use that in your advantage. Um, Women don't have good experiences with apps most of the time because they don't know what they're doing. It's like, playing tennis. If you don't learn the rules, how could you hit the ball right? Right. Yeah.
Exactly. This is great. And how about meeting in real life? I mean, besides being receptive and friendly, I feel that if I'm receptive and friendly to everyone, men and women, I get approached very often. And do you hear from men friends of mine, that they're like, no way, I would never ask a girl out at the gym or at this place. I'm like, why? Like, it doesn't hurt to be friendly with anyone. And then you just watch the conversation. You could see if it organically shows that she's interested in you. Are you seeing a resistance in the men you speak with because of some of the societal shifts that they're hesitant to approach women in real life?
Yeah. When it comes to approaching women in real life, I have quite a strong opinion about this because I learned this from a lot of men. And I think men would agree with me because I learned it from them. Men that approach a girl when she's going about her daily life, they are in their hunting mode. That's why they have no good intention for you. When I say daily life, I mean in Whole Foods, when you're at the gym, when you're on the street minding your own businesses. Because oftentimes when a girl get approached by a guy, it come across as like it's a little bit scary because you don't know that person and he just came up to your face. It's a little bit I would say that guys who are considerate would be a bit more mindful of that. There are certain situations that I think are appropriate that for a guy to approach a girl. So when you are, let's say, in a bar, in a restaurant, in a social event, in a networking event, or let's say in a cafe that you're both sitting down doing your work, and then you have some eye contact. Maybe he can, talk to you a little bit. Or when you're at the airport lounges that you're just doing nothing, waiting for the plane. These are what I call curated space or like socially acceptable environment for a guy to approach a girl. Apart from that, if a guy is interrupting you when you're going about your daily life, I promise you, if he can do this to you, he's done this to 100 other women and he will continue to do so. So I recommend not entertaining guys that interrupt your daily life. And one thing that I always teach my client is back in Bridgerton era, if a lady when she's walking in the park and she see a gentleman that she's interested in, there's a little technique that we call dropping the handkerchief. Oh, I just, drop my napkin. And the woman's going to pretend that she wasn't aware of that and keep walking. And the gentleman saw that. He will come and pick up and say, hey, like, well, lady, you dropped something. And then you can have a conversation. In his head, he's going to think that is his idea to approach you because you dropped something. But the truth is, you picked him. And I think this is such a beautiful technique that girls can still use in today's day and age. A couple of things that I taught my client is if you see a guy that you are interested in, maybe in a cafe or even on the street, you can totally reach out to him, but in the sense that you can ask for help. Maybe you're in a cafe, you can just ask him, hey, this is my first time here. Like, what do you usually get? Like, what coffee is good here? When you ask for help, men are often very helpful because they like to help. They're very willing to, answer you, and also you give him a chance to have a conversation with you. And on the other hand, a guy taught me this actually. There's one time that I was walking in my neighborhood, and a guy came up to me looking so confused. He was like, oh, excuse me, where's the tube station? In the UK, it means metro or like subway. He's asking, where's the subway station? I was like, I'm actually walking there. So why don't I walk with you? So I walked with him for 2 minutes. I took him to the metro station and we were talking on the way. And when we got there, he was like, I have to come clean. I live in the area, but I just want to speak to you. So I'm like, wow, that is genius. And I feel like girls can do the same, even if you know exactly where you're going. Just ask for help. Hey, I'm looking for this. Like, do you know where it is? And then that's how you can start a conversation. And also, the final thing I want to mention is if you do see a guy, maybe in a club, at a bar, or at a restaurant with your girlfriend, you feel like, you're interested in him. a really nice way to drop your handkerchief and send a signal to invite him, especially when you're with friends. It's really difficult for him to come over because there's a huge fear of rejection, right? So he has to be sure that you're interested. And the way how you show your interest is if you look at the guy for 3 seconds and he look back at you and you have eye contact, just do like a little wave or like do like just mouth like hi, he will get it. And that's like the best indicator to invite him to come over. Or if you are maybe at the bar ordering drinks and there's a guy next to you that you feel like, oh, he's quite cute. You want to slightly remove yourself from your friends because if your friends are like surrounding you, it's impossible for him to like penetrate through the circle. So you can slightly go to the side, get a bit closer to him. You know, the law of proximity, right? Get a bit closer. And then you can even ask him for help, like, oh, can you just hold my jacket for me for a bit? I'm going to grab the drinks for my friends. And as you come back and you can say, oh, thank you for doing that for me. Anyways, how's your night going? So when you do it like that, it's so organic. And then it also come across as like you're just being polite because he helped you. So you're asking him, you know, how's your night going? In today's day and age, it's difficult to just sit there and look pretty and wait for a guy to get delivered to your front door by Deliveroo. So, as I mentioned before, because a lot of nice guys are very fear of rejection, and they have all the reasons to be because a lot of times they get told off when they're trying to do too much. So, you got to learn how to drop your handkerchief by asking for help and also, you know, showing a nice smile and also getting a bit closer to him. These work very, very well. Yeah.
That's so great, Abby. Thank you so much. So, if someone who's single wants to find out more, actually, let me take a step back. Do you work with anyone in relationships to help them navigate their relationship as well, or primarily single women? Both?
Both. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Where can they find your books, your resources, connect with you offline, take your master class, all of the things?
Yeah, sure. So I am at Soft Negotiation across all platforms. And if you go to my Instagram profile on my link, you can find my bookstore. I've got a book about how to talk to men. So it's a fundamental guide to teach you how to speak the male language. And then I've got a book about how to use dating apps correctly and beat the algorithm. That's like my best sellers. And I
Mm.
promise you, like those books are pretty affordable, less than the price of a manicure. And the ROI, return on investment, is insane because once you've learned those strategies, you would never have to spend a single dime moving forward when a guy is present. I also have a very short book about how to talk to men. And I've got a dating encyclopedia because, as I mentioned, I answer questions every Monday. So if you follow me on Instagram, you can also ask me your personal dating questions. I will try my best to answer them. And in the past year or so, I keep seeing a pattern that girls kept asking the same question. So, girl, your problem is not unique. And there are lots of other women out there who have the same issue. So I spent a lot of time collecting 100 most asked questions and I put them in a book and I've got very detailed answer on those questions. So that book is going to solve all your future dating issues and your current problems. It's very educational. I highly recommend that. And finally, I've also got a free masterclass to share 5 tips on how to be more feminine and get princess treatment. It's all free. You can click onto the link in my profile and sign up for it, and we can go from there.
Thank you so much. It's not about men versus women. It's about learning each other and communicating with each other so that we can have the best relationships that we deserve.
Absolutely. And the final thing I want to say is men are truly great. They are so helpful, so protective. Most of them are honestly great, and I adore men. If that hasn't been your experience, it is not your fault because we were not taught the male language or like how to communicate in school. I wish this is in our school curriculum. But as a grown adult, it's your responsibility to be aware of this and put in the work to learn how to communicate better for your, I guess, yeah, for your own sake. And also, whatever you've learned, you can also pass on to your future generation, like your daughter, your granddaughter are all going to be women that get cherished and respected by men because their mother, like, you know, back in 2025, took a course or read a book from Abby and she know how to approach guys. Men are truly great if you know how to talk to them.
Thanks, Abby.
If you're enjoying the Radiance Revealed podcast, please don't forget to subscribe so you'll always know when there's a new episode. And while you're at it, please give us a review, as that helps others to find this podcast. And if you want to connect with me, please visit my website, drjenhaley.com, or you can find me on Instagram at drjenhaley.
Hello, everyone. Just a friendly reminder that this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. The statements and views expressed on this podcast are not medical advice. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility made for statements made by guests. Neither this podcast nor any of the information contained within it are a substitute for care by a qualified medical professional. This podcast is provided with the understanding that it does not constitute medical or professional advice or services. If you are looking for help in your journey, please seek out a qualified medical practitioner.